All right. We are ready to go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Harbor Wild Watch's special Give Big live event. We're so happy to have you with us here right now, or if you're watching later, we're glad to have you join us as well. My name is Lindsay Stover, and I am Harbor Wild Watch's Executive Director. So proud to be here. And I have with us our incredible education team that you all know so very well. Well, I have Rachel Easton, our Education Director, and Stina Schroyer, our Science Specialist. And you are also very lucky because you get the three of us today to bring you this special program where we're giving gratitude to all of you, our amazing members, volunteers, donors, viewers, everybody who has supported us over this last challenging year, and just celebrating all of you and the work that you have helped us achieve during these difficult times. So I'm going to do a quick introduction on what Give Big is, just in case you haven't heard of it before. I'm sure most of you have, but in case you haven't, Give Big is a statewide fundraising campaign where individuals and organizations come together across Washington to invest in our communities. And when we give, we take a proactive step towards creating the society that we want to live in. Every spring, the excitement of Give Big builds through the roots-based word of mouth, social media, and a pretty big multimedia promotional campaign as well. Local celebrities get involved, sports teams, you name it. Everybody's coming together to show their generosity. And this year's Give Big campaign is a 48-hour giving event for May 4th and 5th. So starting off today. Just to give you a little bit of background on what happened last year, in 2020, over 91,000 donations were made to over 1,600 nonprofits. And all of that with matching funds from corporations, in-kind contributions from local media, that totaled $19.2 million invested in our local community. It's a pretty incredible number right there. That's just in Washington State. So amazing numbers there. We kind of did participated for the first time in a big way last year as we were stuck at home and wanting to bring exciting programs to you. And we raised the most that we ever had for a Give Big campaign, and that was over $7,000. That was a huge amount for Harbor Wild Watch. And thank you so much for all of you who participated last year and who continue to participate this year. I do want to say that we know that not everybody can participate in and by giving a monetary contribution this year. And so we like to make sure that there are lots of ways that you can contribute. So sharing this event, if you're watching it right now, please share it with all of your social media contacts, any pages that you manage, just get it out there. You can also like and comment. That always helps us. Tell us, some of your favorite memories throughout the past year and why you might give to Harbor Wild Watch. And of course, you can make a donation to Harbor Wild Watch. And the way that you do that is by going to the Give Big Washington campaign page. So it is givebigwa.org. And at the search bar at the top, you can just type in Harbor Wild Watch and we come right up. You'll recognize our logo. So again, it's givebigwa, W-A, /Harbor Wild Watch, or just put our name in the search bar there and you can find it. You can see photos that we put up there. You can see how much we have raised so far. And you can check back on that page really through midnight tomorrow, the 5th, because that's how long this campaign is going on. So excited to have you all with us. Let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to do today. We have a great program for you. So we're going to start out. Well, let me tell you where I am first. So I am at the Scansey Visitor and Interpretive Center. And we are, of course, located in downtown Gig Harbor. I'm upstairs in my office. And then we also have Rachel downstairs. So we're in the same building, which really doesn't happen very often these days. And then Stina is all the way at Titlow Beach over in Tacoma. So Rachel's going to do some touch tanks for us. Stina is going to do some water quality. We're going to check back and forth with each other. I'm going to give you some other updates, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So we thought it would be a fun way to start out this event by sharing with you some of our favorite memories, moments, what we're thankful for over this past year. So I'm going to throw it on down to Rachel so that she can share with you her favorite moment. We're going to share our screen here so you can see the lovely photo of Rachel that we have. There we go. Rachel, take it away.
Thank you, Lindsay. So this was my little quote, trying to summarize an entire year's worth of interesting and positive memories into one. Was a little bit tricky, but definitely my favorite memory of the past year has been getting out to new places. So having the opportunity to visit different locations than we normally give programs at kind of renewed in me that sense of wonder and excitement for all the different types of animals. And I got stumped a lot this year with what different kinds of animals I was seeing, which is always very exciting for me. I love it when I don't know something because it means I get to learn.
Can you tell us about a new creature that you got to learn about this year or last year?
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, I could, how long do you have? But yeah, probably the most interesting animal and one that I had never seen before was the king of the salmon, which is this big ribbon fish. It was, easily 4.5 foot long, huge eye, the size of like a coffee mug. And it had washed up dead at Salt Creek where this photo of me was taken. And it was just so exciting to see a new species, especially one that's so secretive and rare, and have the ability to kind of ask questions and learn more about that species was great.
Oh, I love it. And I love when Rachel gets stumped because it doesn't happen very often. And so it's always fun to see that. And she loves it. I know how much she loves learning. And so it's always fun to see that. Stina, how about you?
Yeah, I think when the pandemic first started, it was definitely a big bummer to hear, we had to really cut back all of our incredible volunteer opportunities, because I definitely just, the people that we get to work with in our community are so cool and so much fun. And it was such a big bummer that we couldn't get together and learn and have fun. But we were able to kind of create the skeleton crew of beach monitors and continue some citizen science, better known as community science, because we're all about community and everyone's included in that. And so we were able to still participate in collecting meaningful data out on our local beaches, as well as doing some water quality sampling and more stuff that I'll talk about later. But that was, as a very extroverted human, still getting a chance to work with some of the people that I love and care about and just make some fun new stories in this, throughout the summer, as well as, we had to continue throughout the winter nighttime monitoring too. And just being out on the beach with this tiny group of humans was really something that I looked forward to from being cooped up at home for most of 2020. So yay for continuing the science despite the pandemic here.
I love it. And Stina, this photo is so beautiful because you have the bridge in the background. I mean, and your smile just says it all. You love being out there. Even if you're distanced from people, you were just so happy to be around other people.
and I might be beaming a little extra because this was technically the last day of 2020. So we got to spend New Year's Eve out at the Narrows. So that's my 2020 is almost over, although the pandemic continued. And so thank you all for, sticking with us in this fun digital format. And, here we are.
I love it. I love it. And then for me, I just love this picture so much. So this was definitely one of the highlights for my work life for 2020. This was actually the first time that I took my son Bodhi, who was I think 3 months old at the time, on a beach walk. And I was, he was born right at the beginning of the pandemic, and we were cooped up for a really long time. And I was just itching to get outside. And I was starting to see, Rachel and Stina and Carly at the time going out into the field and doing these programs, and I was missing them so very much. And so they convinced me to come out to the beach at Manchester. And of course, Bodhi slept the entire time. He saw nothing, but it was so important for me to get out there and kind of start the tradition of sharing my passion for the Salish Sea with him. And so I know that this will be is the first of many beach walks. He's going to go on lots of them this summer now that he's walking, and it's a little scary. But yeah, we're going to have a lot more fun out on the beach, and I'm excited that he gets to be around my favorite people, who are these two humans right here, Rachel and Stina. They're just the best, and I'm excited that I'm going to get to spend more time with the two of you in 2021, because 2021 is all about hope, right? Yes.
Gotta be.
Exactly. All right. So back to our full screen here. So we are going to shoot it down to Rachel. And she is actually going to do a little touch tank program for us. So I'm going to spotlight her so everybody sees just Rachel. And we'll be back in a bit with Stina. So take it away, Rachel.
All right. So I'm going to try to carefully get my tripod set up here over my touch tank. I think you can see that a little bit, and I'll lift some cool critters up for you. But I just went down to the dock a moment ago and did what I love to call belly biology, where I lay on the dock and find something interesting to talk about. And there was quite a number of species underneath there, but one that everybody loves to see are these types of spider crabs. This is a type of decorator crab. They get called spider crabs because of that kind of small body that you see and really long limbs, and they really do resemble a spider. So I can understand why some people are a little less inclined to touch these species compared to the little more stout shore crabs. But this is a fairly common animal on docks because it can employ this really great adaptation of attaching different animals and algae to its body. And it's going to be hard to see because this one only really has a little bit of like some sponge on there, some breadcrumb sponge. But you can see it is a crab, and it has all the crab features of jointed legs and a pair of pinchers. They have 2 eyes and some very tiny antennae up at the very front of their carapace. And this is a species that when it molts, when it has to grow and get larger, is going to need to shed this outer shell in order to kind of puff up with water and stretch their skin before it hardens into a larger, bigger shell. But what ends up happening quite often is these crabs have invested lots of time in decorating themselves to match their environment. So once their shell hardens, quite often they will hold on to that molt and then just cherry pick the best different organisms to move over to the new shell. The carapace is lined with little like Velcro like hooks, and their pinchers, I can flip this animal over carefully. Their pinchers are very flexible and elongated, and they work almost like scissors. Oh, he's really got a hold of me now. They work a lot like scissors to kind of snip things from their environment. If you compare that to the edible crab species like Dungeness and red rocks that people are more familiar with, those are more crushing pinchers for eating larger meals. This is just one of my favorite animals to spy, and I always take a little bit of pride in my ability to find them because they don't make it easy on you. They're doing their best to blend in with their environment. And so in a touch tank like this, it's going to stand out really well. And in my hands, it doesn't really camouflage, but you better believe me when I say on the dock, covered with algae and hiding in the barnacles and this kind of breadcrumb colored sponge, this is a hard creature to spot. And my secret is to just look for a longer time period. If you sit and pause, eventually the animal will move. So we'll just place it back in this cool little tank here. And I can show you another creature well, I guess not creature, organism. One is very important to the Pacific Northwest. So in my hands here, I have a type of kelp called bull kelp. And bull kelp is not a plant, even though it resembles one. It's got this great hold fast. This is the anchor. And unfortunately for this little bull kelp, its anchor kind of gave way. Normally this would be attached to like a nice big rock, something to weigh it down in the current as it grows. But this one didn't really anchor very well. So I was able to easily just pick this up off the surface. Then they have this stipe, this long section, and this piece is the part that does the most growing in this species, and they can grow about a foot to 18 inches in a day when conditions are perfect. And we're coming up to that time of year right now with all of the abundant sunshine. Then we get to the top where this pneumatocyst, and in a full-grown bull kelp, this can be the size of a softball. Right now, it's pretty little, and it's filled with gases, carbon monoxide of all things. Why a scientist thought to check what was in there, I'm not quite sure, but it's kind of a fascinating fact. And then we have the blades, and this is really juvenile blades right here. These blades will get dozens of feet long, and this is where most of the photosynthesis does, because this pneumatocyst keeps it up in the sunlight where it can grow. And this is a species that forms huge forests of kelp. We see a lot of this in areas where there's really good current and flow. In fact, Stina and Lindsay and I both, we were all out at the mouth of Gig Harbor, and there's actually a sizable little mini forest of bull kelp that is kind of blossoming right now. And they're little, but give them a couple weeks and they'll be much, much bigger. So just an important species because it provides habitat. It's also a food source for a lot of animals, and it's a really just important part of our ecosystem here in the Salish Sea. Hopefully you all have seen and loved the beautiful, gorgeous bull kelp before. It is one of my absolute favorite species to find. Do we have time for maybe another couple species, Lindsay?
Yes, we do.
All right, so since we're talking algae, I can show you two other species that we have. We've got this green algae here. This is called Olva Intestinalis, which I just love to tell kids because it really looks like intestines. This looks like some sort of creature just eviscerated itself all over the beach. And they form these kind of hollow tubes that also help keep them floating. And this is from a patch on the dock that has developed over the past like 3 years. And because I spend a lot of time on this dock, I've gotten to know this particular clump of algae, which is just so kind of interesting and fun to think about. Like, it settled with one tiny piece, and it spread and it spread and it spread. And now, if you look underneath the algae while you're doing some valley biology, it's a pretty great spot to find shrimp and fish and other animals that are kind of all hanging in this gutweed, so to speak. And then we've got a red algae here. This one is really fuzzy and filamentous, and it just looks like a pom-pom. And I grabbed this algae initially because I thought I would stick it underneath the microscope to show you some of the really intricacies of the inside of it. It also had a bunch of little teeny tiny microscopic amphipods and copepods, little crustaceans that are living in it. But I just couldn't get the microscope to work properly with our Zoom format that we're doing right now. So sorry about that. We'll see if I can maybe film a video for you because it is really fantastic to see. Gotta love it. And then let's see, the other species that I brought to show you, I had hoped was going to come out, but unfortunately it's being a little bit shy, which tells me maybe that this is a species that can tell time a little bit. This is a rock that's covered with acorn barnacles, and I grabbed them from where the tide was dry. So I walked down onto the beach, grabbed these barnacles, and I expected that when I put them in the water, they would understand that, hey, oh, it's high tide again, and they would come out and kick out their little feeding feet. But they just have not done that, which makes me wonder, do they know it's low tide and it's not time to eat? Are they thinking, wow, I just ate, I'm still full because, they were eating when it was high tide earlier today? Just has me wondering all kinds of questions about barnacles. And another species that I couldn't really bring up from the dock because it's so anchored there, but is a species that we've seen growing on our dock in recent years is the giant barnacle. So you can see how large these shells are and how big the animal is on the inside. And that's a species that actually is edible and has been consumed by native people in our area for thousands of years. So on a nice low tide, you can go get yourself a barnacle shrimp cocktail, I guess. They of course don't want to be eaten, and they have some protective shells that will close up to keep them inside there. But just a cool species to find. And we've got some giant barnacles living on our dock now, which is a little bit new because maybe 10 years ago, there were not any giant barnacles there. So kind of fun to see how one little larva can settle in an area. And if the conditions are right, it will survive and thrive there. So I think I'm going to hand it back over to you, Stina, and you can fill us in with what you're up to at the beach.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel. I know we did just get to tune in with a Facebook Live doing a live from the beach here at Titlow Park. So if you're interested in more of the life at this location, you can scroll down to the Facebook page, of course, after this broadcast, and learn a little bit more about this beach, particularly the incredible seaweed that we find here. Just very fun and delightful. But I'm here at Titlow on this beautiful sunny May 4th day here because the first Tuesday of the month is our Blue Water Task Force Monitoring Tuesdays. And we do that once a month in the months, this is actually our last month of the year, but September through May, when the school's open, because we partner with the Science and Math Institute over in Point Defiance Park to have our water samples analyzed. And this is, of course, in partnership with the South Sound Surfrider Foundation and a handful of amazing volunteers who go out and collect these water samples to make sure that there's no poo in the water that you're swimming in. You might have seen the folks walking behind me just a moment ago, but people like to play here all year round. And then, of course, the Department of Ecology takes over some water quality monitoring during those more summer months. But the nice thing about community science is it does involve the community. And usually there's not enough scientists to do all the incredible work that needs to be done to protect these incredible places. So whether it's testing the water quality or one of my favorite programs, going out and doing beach monitoring, which you may have seen in our Wild Side Weekly newsletter, there is a slew of live beach walks and beach monitoring digital programs coming your way at the end of May. So we'll be kind of, keeping you involved in a digital way while we maintain kind of smaller groups until, Pierce County is still in phase 2. So we're working our way towards getting more people out on the beach, but we're just not quite there yet. But typically during May, we'd be partnering with high school groups and getting them out to our local beaches to collect that data. And that data is used in, I guess, a variety of ways now. One of the ways we've used our beach monitoring data is to inform some of the oyster work we've gotten involved with. And so by looking at these beaches, something that we saw was that oysters started popping up in kind of our beaches in the Carr Inlet and not really in the Narrows. And we're like, we're noticing, we have a close eye on these local spots every summer, every winter. We're going out and doing our procedures, and we noticed this difference. And so we were able to do a couple presentations on why we think the oysters are having such a great time here in the South Sound. And through that work, we got involved with working on some Olympia oyster restoration projects out at the Penrose Point State Park. And so you might also tune into a Facebook Live video we did about that kind of at the end of April. So we've been busy doing lots of things. And then the other cool thing that's happening with our beach monitoring is that, as parks change it, there's the Demolay Sandspit or Fox Island Sandspit, or let's see, it has lots of names. Bella Bella Beach, the place where the tube worms sing, whatever you want to call that wonderful place. They're going to be removing the seawall in the next couple years or so. And seawalls are something that do a pretty good job of holding the nearshore environment in, But it turns out a lot of that that dynamic between the nearshore and the intertidal zone is really important. And those seawalls do some blocking. And so by taking those out, we'll get to see how the beach changes. And because we've been monitoring this site since 2013, we have a really good data set that's going to help inform that project going forward. So super looking forward to that in the next couple of years. Also, maybe, for you volunteers out there, if forage fish is something you're interested in, we're going to be adding some new surveys to our adventures as we move forward. And speaking of fish, if there's any scuba divers out there, one of my pandemic highlights has been to continue our Year of Young Rockfish surveys. So I offer a training for those to teach scuba divers how to add a little twist of science to your splashes. Titlow Beach Park happens to be an incredible dive site if the tide is right. These pilings are super fun to poke around. And we're looking for those little baby rockfish to better inform, rockfish recovery in the Puget Sound. So lots of really fun ways to get involved. I like to think if there's anything you're interested in, there's probably a community science project for that. Which one more thing I'd like to highlight when it comes to community science is that the sea star wasting surveys that we started implementing to our beach monitoring procedures is another thing that, this data is so important because it helped inform that the sunflower stars were pretty much disappearing off of our beaches. And that was something that scientists were seeing up and down the West Coast. And so because that's such a huge geographical issue, that's a really key thing highlighting the importance of community science, because if you have a huge area, you have a lot, hundreds, thousands of miles of coastline, one science team can't do all the work that it takes to look at these beaches and understand the sea star populations. And so our Harbor Wild Watch crew has been able to document the sea star populations in our area in partnership with, I think, over 61 other organizations from California all the way to Alaska. And with all that information, scientists were actually able to put the sunflower star on the threatened species list. And so now we can realize that, there's a big problem here, and better take action to hopefully recover that population. And if you'd like to learn more about that, you can always tune into our past Cocktails and Fish Tales featuring the sunflower star with Dr. Sarah Gravem, who was an instrumental human in pulling all those community pieces together. So yeah, just really important that we, can come together to collect this information and do stuff with the data. So I'm gonna come back a little bit more and talk about how we've added to the Blue Water Task Force monitoring. But for now, I'll go ahead and kick it back over to Lindsay. Getting beautiful out here.
It is. I'm very jealous of you right now because you are outside and Rachel and I are inside. And I want to go outside now. Thank you for that amazing update, Sina. It is so incredible thinking about when you and Dr. Mike Behrens started the community science program back in 2013. It was your first year with us as a staff member, and how much you have grown that program, not only in the types of monitoring that you're doing, but the number of people that have been helping out. And I want to say that in 2019, the last time that we actually had people, going out and participating in larger numbers, it was somewhere around 500 or 600 community scientists that were contributing to that work.
It was pretty rad. I can't wait for that to be our reality again.
I know. And just the fact that you've been doing this for so long, and I'm sure some of it is tedious. And now just in this last year, there's so many applications of the work that you've been doing with the Sunflower Star being listed, with DeMolay, and with your oyster project. I mean, how exciting is it for your past work over the last, 7 years to actually be utilized?
Absolutely. And just thinking, I think the cool thing about community science is it's not just us. It's this team of people all coming together to do it, and our community. And it's just I like to say teamwork makes the dream work, and community science really just exemplifies that. And it just makes my heart so warm and fuzzy. So for all of you out there tuning in, your support definitely helps our community science projects. And we appreciate you all out there so much. I can't wait to get you on the beach. Darn it.
I love it. Thank you, Stina. And I know we are definitely going to check back in with you a little bit later.
Perfect. We're timing the train schedule really well so far. So
I know. Last time we were out there, we had several train interruptions. So way to go on that timing, Stina.
Totally.
Now I wanted to give you a little update on just like what we have actually accomplished over the last, more than a year now. So let's see, I am going to share my screen again because why not? I have a lovely little graphic for you. So we did so very much in 2020 by kind of transitioning to fully digital programs. It was really an amazing feat by our, thank goodness, very technologically savvy staff. And we really made that transition. We were one of the first organizations in our region to do it really quickly. Only a couple of weeks after schools closed, we were able to actually transition to that digital platform. And it definitely helped that we already had so many of you who are following us online, but we gained so many more followers as well. So we did 233 programs between March and December of 2020. And you can see the little breakdown here. We did, 30 different STEM workshops for local schools. We had 9 of those cocktails and fishtails presentations, 62 public walking tours. Holy cow. That was at the beach, at the estuary, wetland, forest. Rachel, you did a backyard walk as well because kids were stuck at home in their, houses and they had their backyard maybe to explore. So that was really thinking on your feet there. And then Stina, as she mentioned, continuing doing those monitoring events. And one super exciting thing that happened was the fact that Rachel kicked off our TikTok debut. And we just took off. I don't want to say that we went viral, but we did because the technical definition for that is getting over 1 million views. And a couple of our posts did that early on, which really just made us, jump in our numbers. And the great thing about TikTok is that it expanded not only the type of people that were watching us, so we were getting a whole new audience that weren't following us on our other platforms, but also it expanded our geographic footprint. So we have been delivering programs, for so long to people of Gig Harbor and our surrounding communities, really the South Puget Sound. We were getting people from the other side of the country, from Iceland, Australia, the Philippines. I mean, you name it. People were watching our programs from all over the world. And that was one of those, really beautiful silver linings in the pandemic. We were getting to reach so many more people. So kudos to Rachel and Stina for creating all that incredible content that Rachel could then, she learned very quickly how to be an amazing TikToker and put it up there. But it really, it trickled down to all of our other platforms. So we had incredible growth on our YouTube page, in our Facebook account, on Instagram. So we absolutely love seeing that. And some other numbers for you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go back because I want to make sure to get these numbers right. So now that was last year. That was 2020 with over 2.4 million minutes viewed, which holy cow, that's just incredible. But now fast forward to this year, this last quarter. So the first quarter from 2021. So that's really January through March. We continue to deliver virtual workshops, and we have done a total of 47 digital programs with 98,000 minutes viewed. That's in 3 months. Really, really incredible. In addition to that, we did some kind of private digital programs, as well as what Stina mentioned, having kind of her core crew of people out on the beaches, doing that community science monitoring. So we did 6 of those programs with another 50 participants. And then just looking at our youth programs, we did 14 either kind of classroom workshops or what we call our field workshops, our Explorer series. with 265 students, which, wow, that's incredible. So altogether, we had 67 programs with 293 participants and 98,043 minutes viewed. Wow. That's one 3-month period, ladies. It's incredible. It really is. And honestly, there is no way that we could do this without the incredible support of all of you who like our videos, who comment constantly, who are sharing them with their social media followers, with the different pages that you manage. We're just so excited that you are all loving our content as well. And there have been some people who are already showing their love for us today during this Give Big event. And so I want to do a huge shout out to them. First of all, I want to mention that our board of directors, there are 9 of them, and they are incredible individuals. They, I talked to them about contributing a match to this campaign, because that's a way that each person's gift is essentially double the impact, because every dollar that is donated, the board would then match that. And they really are just swinging for the fences this year, because last year they did a match of $1,000, which was incredibly generous, and we are so thankful for it. This year, they have outdone themselves, because as a total, they are matching up to $5,000. So that means if we hit our goal of raising $5,000, we will actually raise $10,000 during this campaign. Yeah. So kudos to our incredible board members. We are so thankful for your support of us, just in what we do, but also your monetary support, which is so very important to keep a nonprofit organization like us going. But where are we right now? I know that's what everybody wants to know. So we have had some incredible donors so far. So just starting since basically midnight last night, we have donations from Margaret Harris of Federal Way. Thank you so much, Margaret. Margaret says, love the work you do and the enthusiasm of your staff and volunteers. Oh, thank you, Margaret.
Thanks, Margaret.
We love you. We have a donation from Jenny Wook. Thank you so much, Jenny from Gig Harbor. Karen Whiting from Georgia. Thank you so much for your donation, Karen. Seago Jackson, I know he is a frequent person that watches our digital programs, and he's tuning in from Clinton, Washington. He gave a very generous donation. William Salge, he has donated from Gig Harbor, Washington. We have another out-of-stater, Roxy Golas. She recently was married. She has a new last name. And Roxy says, congratulations to all of you for making it through an extremely challenging year. Here's to calmer seas in 2021 and beyond. Oh, Roxy, thank you. Thank you so much for your donation and for your kind words. And then we have some longtime Steward Club members who gave a really generous donation. Steve and Linda Henry, thank you so much for your donation. I know Steve is anxious to get back out on the beach with us, to take some photos with us. We miss seeing your faces so very much. Can we do a drum roll, or can we do that? There we go. So far, towards our $5,000 goal, we have raised $2,575. So we are over the halfway point. Woohoo!
Impressive.
That is impressive. We have all of the rest of today and all day tomorrow that you can still help us reach our goal of $5,000. And if by midnight tomorrow, which is the 5th, we hit that $5,000 mark, that donation will be doubled by our board of directors, and we will have raised $10,000. And before I switch it back over to Rachel, I just want to let you know what your donation is contributing to. So you all know what we do. We deliver quality environmental education programs to our community and beyond. And our mission is to inspire stewardship for the Salish Sea. So everything that we do, we're trying to make an emotional connection between those animals that Rachel is showing and the individual, so that when they go to make different choices or behaviors at work, at school, at home, they're thinking about the Salish Sea and the impact that their decisions have on it. And so donations go directly to delivering our programs. You know, it takes money to make sure that these amazing educators are getting out on the beach and getting into the classroom, which we're still doing virtually, even that we're in a hybrid model. Rachel and Stina are both. Stina did a program this morning for a local school. And so we're still getting in the classroom. We're getting ready to kick off our summer season. And so we're going to be doing beach walks. And then, of course, after our beach walk season, we have our estuary tours when the salmon are spawning. We'll have our Peering Through the Night program that comes back. So all of the incredible environmental education programs that we are delivering are helped by your donation. And of course, a lot of what we do is supported by incredible grants that we receive from community foundations, and even some regional foundations as well. But there's a lot of things that those grants don't cover. And so donations from individuals like yourself make sure that everything that we do is covered, from our program work that we do to keeping the lights on and then the phone going, and our Zoom accounts, and things like that we absolutely rely on in order to deliver our programs. So that's where your donations go. Every single dollar counts. And now every single dollar is like $2. So wonderful time to donate. Yes. All right. So I think, that is literally exactly on the dot when I'm supposed to move to the next. That rarely happens, but I'm going to give myself a kudos for that. So I'm going to switch it back over to Rachel, and let me spotlight you again here, Rachel.
Perfect. And let me flip myself around and get my sea creatures queued back up again. We've got a few more interesting things to chat about. So give me one.
I bet some people watching right now are really missing seeing the Scansy house. And so that that shot that you did is probably really exciting for people.
Yeah, this is what it looks like. Hasn't changed. Still here. All right. So I've got a couple of interesting creatures in here to share with you. And we're going to start with my favorite crab. And it takes a lot to be my favorite crab because there are so many amazing creatures. And I always say, I love them all, but really I love this crab above all the rest. This is called a pygmy rock crab. And it just looks like your average crab. It's not terribly exciting. It's got these great kind of thickened pinchers in the front and just a perfectly oval body. And what I love about them is how they will take advantage of the barnacles, the giant barnacles, when they're dead. So I have my giant barnacle skeleton here. And you can see these little volcanoes that are left behind by the barnacles after the barnacles die. And this crab moves into those homes and fits just perfectly. You cannot get a pygmy rock crab out of one of these barnacle shells once it moves in. They just sort of sit there and they'll push their legs out to fit inside there. And so whenever I find those giant barnacles, I'm always looking for this adorable little crab. And this is a small one. They do get to be about the size of that barnacle base there, maybe 3 inches across or so. And they're just perfectly well adapted to living in those little crevices and hunkering down during low tide, waiting for the water to come back, and then creeping out and foraging for whatever they can find. They're not really specialist eaters. They'll eat whatever they can come across, be it algae or maybe something dead, or maybe a slower kind of creepy type animal that they can actually capture and catch and eat with those little pinchers. But they're just so stinking cute. Don't you love it? All right, I'm probably the only person who loves pygmy rock crabs this much, but they're just adorable. Okay, so while I was talking about that crab, it has given the tube worm the opportunity to come out. And I'm actually going to take my phone off of the tripod here so I can get you a little closer to it. When I first reached into the tank, of course, it closed right up on us. But right down here, this long tube that you see, this is a type of worm. And I can show you from the side a little bit. This is this weird feathery worm. See it kind of wiggling as the water shifts. And this is a worm that is related to the earthworms in your yard. So it's got a segmented body, but instead of crawling around in the moist earth, it sits in one spot, creates this tube around itself, and then sticks these fantastic feeding tentacles out to eat. So this is called the corona, not related to coronavirus. It means crown. The coronavirus is actually named after its crown-like spike protein shape, which is fascinating, actually. But this is an animal that is super well adapted to living life on docks. And not only docks, because docks are a fairly recent thing in the evolution of these animals. Before they were living on docks, they were living on rock outcroppings and seawall and that sort of drop-off areas where you get high current. But what I love about it is their adaptation. And this is an animal that is a favorite in our touch tanks because of how they react when they are touched. So if I take my gentle finger and just approach this worm, it will jump right back in that tube where it's very, very well protected. Now, this animal has that great adaptation, but it can also come at a cost. This is a planktonic animal, and it wants to settle in its larval form on other tube worms, which is great because once one tube worm is there, it's proof that the environment can sustain that species. But you basically have settled on your highest competitors, right? Because they're using all the same resources, all the same food, and growing in the same spot. And eventually what happens to these tube worms is they can reach a size where they can no longer be stuck to the surface. My little pygmy rock crabs zooming around in here, looking at those barnacles, probably for a tasty treat. But what ends up happening is these tubes can fall to the bottom. So they can detach from the dock or from their rock and fall to the bottom. And the crabs know that is like a dinner bell. Because once the tube worm is inside its tube, it's protected, but the back half of the tube where it attaches can get open, and then the crabs can eat them. But on this tube, there is a few other species, and these are species that, believe it or not, are more closely related to you and I than any of these other invertebrates. So the crabs have some similarities with us. You know, they have eyes and legs and a brain, and that's about it. These weird little sac-like organisms. So there's one yellow one right here. There's an orange one right here. And then over in this corner, I have two more. I have this weird blob of pinkish goo. This is a colony of these tunicates. And then I have this clear one that's really hard to see. It's called like a brooding tunicate. But what's interesting is you can see the intestines. It's the only thing that you can really observe in this animal. It's totally clear all the way around, but you can see what they had for breakfast this morning. And these are a species called a tunicate, or also called a sea squirt, and they are filter feeders. So they are one of the most vulnerable animals in the Salish Sea because they're at the mercy of whatever washes into that water. So if it's healthy things like plankton, that's going to be good for them. If it's unhealthy things like dog poop or brake dust or fertilizer from people's yards, that's going to be something that's harmful to them. But this animal I mentioned is our closest relative because in its larval stage, so when it's a little tiny baby swimming around looking for a place to settle, it has the beginnings of a brain stem called the notochord. Now, all vertebrates, when they are first developing, have this notochord too, but they get more complicated. So we grow a whole spine and brain and a series of tissues and organs to go along with it. In the tunicates, what they do is once they settle, they actually reabsorb their little notochord, and they just become a sack of guts and reproductive organs. That is it. And so I once had a mom make a joke that it's very much like a teenager, because it just sits around and eats and does nothing else with no brain. And I thought that was kind of funny. But our feather duster worm is coming out again because it's been a moment since I've touched it, and it thinks, okay, the coast is clear, it better come out. Oh, check this out. Okay, this is going to be really hard to see. But right next to this bull kelp is a little itty bitty cross jelly. I don't know if you can see it on my fingers. You might have to take my word for it that there is a little itty bitty thimble-sized jelly there that I didn't even know I had captured. It came in with the water. Which makes me wonder, how many times have I done that before, where I've captured water and didn't know there was something in it? And surely there are thousands of organisms in here that are just on the microscopic level that we can't even see with our naked eye. One drop of water can contain just millions of organisms, which is fascinating and fantastic. And it's important that we consider those little tiny minute animals because they are so critical to the rest of the food chain, right? They are kind of the building blocks. The smallest things get eaten by the bigger and bigger things. So even if things like orca whales don't necessarily filter feed, they can still be affected by the things in the water that run off from our yards and roadways and have a negative impact on them. So we are always kind of preaching that message of stewardship, trying to get people to care as much about these organisms as possible. So thanks for tuning in with us and learning a little bit about some of these fantastic animals. Hopefully you're learning and having fun, because that's the Harbor Wild Watch motto. And of course, if you've got more questions, we welcome those. We love it when our discussions inspire questions, because when you wonder, it makes a little space in your brain and you'll store that information for much longer. I mean, that's just fact right there.
Oh, awesome, Rachel. I love seeing that. And the mom joke. I remember when the mom did that. And surely our teen program, none of our teens are like that. They are so incredible.
None of our.
Yeah. Very, very fun. I love the moment in volunteer training when you and Suna are doing kind of your biology 101 class and you talk about the tunicate being our, closest relative, and it just blows people's minds. It's always funny.
Yeah. I'm gonna say closest invertebrate relative.
Sorry, yes, that's what I meant. Correct.
As a nice distinction there. Just in case you're tuning in and you're thinking, what is wrong with these ladies?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. So Stina, take us back out to the beautiful beach where you are. I think it's getting nicer by the minute.
I've been definitely kind of distracted. Like, I'm just getting this view of the clouds. Like, it was cloudy and dramatic. Still have these little dramatic poofs here and there, but it is starting to get a little hot, and it feels like July, which definitely looking forward to the extreme low tides in July. And oh no, that's a boat. I thought we were gonna have another train. I thought I maybe had jinxed ourselves here. But yeah, things are happening today because it's gorgeous. But I just wanted to clue you all in on some upcoming community science programs. You of course can tune in to our digital beach monitorings. Those events will be broadcasted live on Facebook through May and June. So while we wish you could join us on the beach, we're gonna, stick to the safety of a digital program for now, with just a small group of folks out on the beach collecting that information. But we'll share it with you via our social media platform. So definitely tune in, share all of those. There'll be Facebook events as well as posted on our website calendar. Other fun things you can get involved with. Again, if you are a scuba diver, that's one of the very few in-person volunteer opportunities we've been able to maintain. And there will be a rockfish training happening on the Friday evening on May 14th. So you can meet at Tacoma Scuba and learn a little bit more about how you can add that twist of science to your future splashes, because again, the more information, the better we can kind of make these determinations about the health of our ecosystems. And I know Rachel did a really nice job talking about the different adaptations that these creatures have. And while they are resilient, they can probably handle a little bit, like they can't handle our dog poop and our car waste. Like, let's do what we can to make this place give it an easier time here. So I was thinking about that also in the class session I led this morning. The students got to learn about the Intertidal Zone, this place between the highest high tide and the lowest low tide, and all the adaptations that the sea creatures have to survive in this difficult habitat, right? I'm thinking about those crabs that melting in the sunshine, right? They're just waiting for that tide to come back up and cool them off, but they survive. And so thinking about how those students kind of took those ideas of adaptations and were able to invent their very own intertidal sea creatures this morning, just really inspires me and pumps me up, because these kids definitely get how cool the animals are on this beach and how hard their life already is, and that there's definitely things that we can do in our day-to-day life to help protect the Salish Sea and Puget Sound here. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can mention in this moment, but I might have sunshine brain here. So I'll turn it back over to Lindsay.
Oh, you're muted, Lindsay.
I knew I was going to do that at least once. Sina, how about our next cocktails and fishtails presentation?
Oh, yeah, that's right. As a small team, we get to wear many hats, and kind of taking over the cocktails and fishtails hat has been so fun for me, because we get to, reach out to these rad scientists, very cool humans doing amazing work. And because we're hosting cocktails and fishtails digitally, we get to bring in scientists from wherever we want. So we just had, someone from California tuning in to tell us all about great white sharks and how we can better understand their movements in the ocean and fishing vessel movements, and put those together to better protect these incredible creatures, including the delicious ones like tuna that many people consume. So we have a really fun one coming up in May. It's Mola Mola May, I like to think. Maybe even Mola Mola Madness May, but Liz Scottman with the Surfrider Foundation, she's the Washington regional manager, a total nerd, a total goofball, so smart. I also think it's her birthday today, so happy birthday, Liz. But she'll be joining us on the third Wednesday of the month, 6 p.m. We'll be going live, and you can tune in and have your questions answered. And let me tell you, the sunfish, aka the Mola Mola, is strange. It's weird. It's absurd. You're going to have so many wonders, and Liz is going to be there to help answer all of that. So we have her in May. We have a great lineup that will is almost all posted. I think there's a couple last details I'm getting together, but Cocktails and Fishtails for 2021 is a stellar lineup, and I can't wait for you all to tune in digitally as well. So yeah.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. It sounds like after we see this presentation, we might have to add the Mola Mola to the Big, Beautiful, and Bizarre presentation that we do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Christina, for your wonderful updates while you are doing your water quality sampling out at Titlow. Thank you, Rachel, for bringing a little invertebrate biology to us right from the Scansy house. Absolutely love it. And it just gives me so much excitement for when we do start doing in-person programs again, hopefully later this year, if not definitely in 2022. But in the meantime, we are still ready and prepared to bring you so much incredible digital content like we are today. So thank you to all of the people who have donated already to Give Big. Thank you to everybody who is inspired by this presentation and everything that we do at Harbor Wild Watch who is going to give in the future. As a reminder, you want to go to the Washington Give Big page. So it's givebigwa.org. And then you can type in Harbor Wild Watch in the search nonprofit search bar, or just go givebig.org wa.org/Harbor Wild Watch. And it's going to bring you up to our page. You can make a donation right there. If for some reason that gives you pause, you're having trouble with it, you can always go to our website, harborwildwatch.org, and make a donation there. If you would rather not make a digital contribution, you can always mail a check to us. Our address is actually now, our mailing address is the same as our physical address. So that was a change that we made earlier this year. So our mailing address is 3207 Harbor View Drive. And that, of course, is Gig Harbor 98335. No matter how you want to give to us, whether it is a monetary donation or it's sharing, liking, and commenting on our digital content, we are so grateful to all of you for supporting our work and making sure that we have been able to continue to deliver quality environmental education over this past year plus now. So thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks, Rachel and Stina. Make sure, if you're not already getting our weekly Wildside newsletter that comes out, Stina sends that out, and you can sign up on our website. It's a weekly email that tells you what's happening this week and things to plan on for later in the month. There's also things like stewardship tips in there, in the field, video, all sorts of things, that delightful things that Stina puts together for you.
Yeah, which I have to give a shout out to our virtual interns who help put together some of the stewardship tips as well as the creature features. There's a team of 3 ladies just knocking it out of the park with those. So glad you know that we can still get people involved digitally during these kind of weird times. So cheers to them too.
Yes, cheers to them for sure. And so that is it for us today. Make sure you go on our page and share it so that other people that you might know that want to support our work can do so. Thank you for tuning in on this incredible Give Big first day. And remember, we have until midnight tomorrow at the 5th. We have a $5,000 match that is happening from our incredible board of directors. So your donation will be doubled. So thank you all, and we'll see you next time.